on extrajudicial police killings. I want to reintroduce my guests to you before we talk. To my right is Patricia Nyaundi. She's the CEO of the Kenyan National Commission on Human Rights. That is the state-run human rights body. To my left is Ahmed Mohammed, who's a social activist, businessman and community leader in Isli. I must also say that we had invited the police spokesperson, Charles Owino, but he has declined to come. Nonetheless, as they say, the show must go on. A new video showing two police officers engaging in extrajudicial killings has sparked controversy over the issue, and that's what we're discussing this evening. And please do get in touch with us on 22422, which is our SMS line, and online using the hashtag SundayLive. Mohammed, let me begin with you because you live and work in this community. What is it that you know of the gang, and have you encountered them at all?
The gang called Superpower Gang, they are very well feared in Isli. They have wreaked havoc in Isli. They're a gang of teenagers, usually from 14 to 20, and they have actually seriously dented the image of Isli. We had issues whereby these kids made people not to go to the mosque in the mornings. People were being robbed. Some businessmen have fallen victim to this gang. I know of a friend of mine personally who was a wholesaler who was killed by this gang, and his name was Mustafa. May he rest in peace. And these guys are actually a pain in the community in Isli. So for so long we have had issues to do with killings and muggings and robberies within Isli. And if I can give you a background of these kids, most of them are from the diaspora, sent here for rehabilitation by their parents who are in the Western world, in the United States, in Europe, for rehabilitation because they have committed crimes back in those countries, and their parents, for fear of being arrested or being charged or even being hanged by the systems in those countries, send them to their relatives here. And most of them are drug addicts. So to sustain their habit of drug dealings and all this, they had to make sure that they get money and source of income.
How do you feel about the video that has surfaced showing the killings of at least two of these gang members?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different reactions, but on this one, I must say that I'm on the side of the police, because it's not as if this police officer went to the bedroom of these boys, dragged them into the streets and shot them dead. You know, he had no business with them, but he was doing his job, and I think he has done his job perfectly well, and I support what the police are doing in maintaining law and order in this country.
Patricia, public opinion on this matter is so divided because so many Kenyans have suffered at the hands of gangs who have run wild. You know, it's almost like the wild, wild west in some parts of this city, some parts of this country. Yet at the same time, there is the rule of law. So when you hear Mohammed here saying that he supports the police and the police were just doing their job, what is your perspective?
I think, first of all, we should be very worried when as a society we begin normalizing violence by anyone or for any reason. If you have watched the clip, I think it is horrendous to the extent that the young man was actually pleading for his life. The law allows the use of firearms to protect life. In this case, it is evident that the police officers or members of the public were not at immediate risk from that young man. Having said that, I think we must safeguard the rule of law. The law is very clear. Actually, our constitution dedicates an entire chapter to national security, and in Article 238 says we must pursue national security within the boundaries of the rule of law, human rights, professionalism. Article 244, which establishes the National Police Service, also gives them guiding principles. Central to that is respect for the rule of law, respect for human rights. I liked my brother Ahmed's introductory remarks because he emphasizes that in the absence of insecurity, we cannot enjoy, in the presence of insecurity, we cannot enjoy our human rights. That's why the community in Isli, their right to a livelihood is being threatened. I took time to consult Dr. Google on the meaning of police. And police is about restoring public order. You do not do that by wanton killings. So I know that we are all under immense pressure, and when we are under immense pressure, the temptation is to take the easy way out. This is the easy route. Kill them. But do you address the underlying causes of the high rate of insecurity? He has hinted at some of the causes. I believe that it is upon all the players within the justice sector to take time, find out where is the weak link, and strengthen it. You do not build the justice sector by dismantling what we think is a core part of the justice sector, criminal justice sector, which is the police.
Right.
There are other actors there. I think it is important to have a conversation and say, where is this weak link and how do we strengthen it?
How do you feel about that as somebody who says you have actually lost somebody to this gang, that there is a rule of law that is outlined in the Constitution, and that the country, you know, we cannot surrender to the quote-unquote law of the jungle, if you like, even in dealing with people who have wreaked so much pain and havoc in our lives. Do you feel that the justice system is working the way it should to have addressed such people?
I mean, before I answer that, I have huge respect for Patricia. She's doing a very good job. But all these things that you hear civil societies talk about is abstract stuff. You know, who speaks for the victims of this gang? You know, that's the question that we need to speak to ask ourselves. Who speaks to Mustafa, a wholesaler who was doing his job, who was shot dead by these guys and got away with 49,000 shillings? Who speaks for the policemen and women who were killed in Isli? There's a sergeant who was killed in Georgia Road in Isli.
Do you believe that
if
they are arrested and put in prison, that is not punishment enough?
I mean, there is a problem with the judicial system in this country. I've seen some of the youths who have been arrested, and the next day they're on the streets. I don't know what happens between when they're arrested and when they are supposed to be charged. And it's like two fingers to the rule of law. So, I mean, losing one life is losing one life too many. Right. But there must be a line between extrajudicial killing and maintaining the rule of law. And I need to be on the side of hard-working people who are coming out on the streets of Sli, who are coming to their shops to do business, to carry out their daily lives, to make sure that they have food on the table of their kids. These people must be supported, and we must condemn thuggery. We must condemn these thugs. We must condemn the gangsters who are carrying out this.
Let me ask you one more question before I address the issue of the justice system and whether it's working. In the same way in which police gunned down these two who allegedly were part of the gang, I'm using the word allegedly because the justice process was not followed. I cannot ascertain that as a journalist. A whole legal process needs to happen for me to say that they were in fact part of the gang.
But I am part of the neighborhood.
Fair enough, and I respect that. Nonetheless, the same way in which they were gunned down, do you believe that the same sort of force is used by police on innocent civilians, that sometimes it may be the wrong person on the ground?
I mean, let me tell you a background of these two
No, answer my question first.
These two guys who have been...
Answer my question.
I will answer your question, but I want to give you a brief background. These two youths are known to be part of this gang. They have been tracked for some time. They have gone to a police station many times, and they are really known. And in fact, if you listen to that video very keenly, people were cheering.
Having said that, though, and I've explained to you why I cannot describe them as criminals, I can only say that they were alleged to be. Having said that, do you believe that the same sort of force may be used on innocent civilians?
I don't believe
sometimes
it could
be the wrong identity.
I think the police are doing the police are between a rock and a hard place. when incidents like this happens, people are up in arms condemning them. And when there is a rise in crime, people are also up in arms condemning them. So we need to appreciate the service that's being rendered by the police in this country. They're doing a good job. And if I tell you, 2013, 2014, 2015, the rate in which the superpower gang were robbing people was at the peak. And it has gone down significantly because the police are doing their job in eliminating them, in taking them to court, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So we need to support the police in carrying out. And we need,
let me catch you on the word taking them to court,
yeah,
because you've brought out the judicial system. And Patricia, I don't want that point to be lost, because this is what officers will tell you behind the scenes, that look, we follow the rule of law. We arrest these people. We take them to court. We carry out our investigations. We present them. They're let out on technicalities. They're let out on bond, etc. And the next day they're back on the street taunting police, even after they have followed a due process. Do you appreciate or believe that there is that problem within the justice system? Where, and by the way, it's not just on petty gangs. You hear police say the same thing with terrorists,
yes,
that they're in one day, they're lobbied for, they get bond, they're out the next day. And like you said, at the end of it, you're going to blame the police again.
Frankly speaking, I think the police are taking on, in all this conversation, they are, I think, trying to take cover under a very thin screen. The law is very clear that you must follow due process. Why is it that we allow for bail pending trial? For the simple reason that you want to limit confinement of any person. But I just think that the point we want to emphasize is that this particular brand of justice targets the poor. This particular brand of justice that says shoot on suspicion. I have a problem with it because in this country there is another brand of suspected criminals that are not subjected to instant justice. So I have a problem with a particular brand of justice that targets the poor and the vulnerable. And because of that, it can then not be legitimate. It cannot be legitimate.
There are many youths who are unemployed.
With your
kind, we say that
with your kind permission,
they should all be on the streets robbing and carrying out thuggery.
Allow me to. I think I have always allowed you to,
yeah, sure,
to speak. So the point then is that why is it that this particular category of persons is allowed to suffer this injustice, and the rest of us think that it is okay? And another category of criminals, like a corrupt government official, perhaps? Economic crimes, which don't suffer the same fate, and they are able to manipulate the justice system. So I think let's be very cautious when we say and give license, because as you said, occasionally they do get the right criminals, but by and large there is a way in which we are criminalizing poverty. So young people who are found on the streets are easy targets for this kind of justice. And to protect them, to protect this particular category of people in our society, it is important. It is better that we are, but we protect the innocent. This is my problem. Our experience as the National Commission on Human Rights is that a number of young men in the lower income areas are targeted for extrajudicial killings. Patricia, there may be some of my viewers watching who are saying the only reason you can speak that way is because you have not been a victim of a violent crime. I've heard the argument that if you ever had a gun pointed to your head, if somebody came into your home and accosted you and violated you in such a manner, that you would applaud the police for what they did. I'll be honest with you, I have been a victim, and they walked right into my bedroom, So I know what it is to be accosted and to feel vulnerable and to feel the violation of my private space. That notwithstanding, I have no doubt, based on the work that I do at the Commission, that the bulk of the young people who are being killed are not criminals. So for the sake of those ones, we must speak out. There are some who are victims, but the bulk of those who are being killed are not criminals. And there is no reason that as a country we have invested in the judiciary and then we say there's an easier way to deal with this. Okay?
Mohammed, do you think in some way police are losing the war on crime to the extent that they seem to be backed into the corner where killings like this are being justified, that there's no other way out? Are police losing that war?
I think this is an isolated incident. You know, police are doing a good job. They're not losing the war on crime. In fact, I live in Nairobi, I live in Isli, and if you're out and about, you feel like crime rate has actually gone down around Nairobi, and that's thanks to the police that they're doing their job. So we should not condemn the police entirely on an incident that's isolated. On
the contrary, it's not isolated. Kenya has been ranked top in Africa in cases of police shootings and killings of civilians. That's according to a report by Amnesty International. I'll give you the statistics. By October 2016, a total of 122 extrajudicial killings had been reported in Kenya. 122. That's out of 177 cases in Africa. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's something that needs to be looked at. Some extrajudicial killings have been rampant in the last few years, but this particular, you know, I can only speak of my neighborhood. I'm not an expert on extrajudicial killings and so on and so forth,
right.
And I'm not a lawyer.
Right.
But initially, we're very thankful to the police for doing what they're doing, and we appreciate what they're doing, and we must support the police and give them a space to carry out their daily jobs.
That's still being my last question to you. Are police losing the war on crime to the extent that they are now engaging in really what would be then criminality?
I think what I must say is that we invested in setting up a task force to recommend necessary reforms within the police that would enable them better execute their mandate, the Ransley task force. And one of the recommendations they made was that we must improve the welfare of police officers and better equip them to enable them do their work. I think that the tragedy is that we have not invested in building the technical capacity of the police to do the work that they are doing. So what we have done is they have a very difficult assignment, and we send them out ill-equipped, ill-trained. One of our concerns as a National Commission is that when recruiting police officers, we take, you know, the lowest academic grade. We have always argued that we need to change the way that we recruit our police officers. We need to give them proper equipment. The only reason, I think that the tragedy of this is that when incidents such as this happen, it would have been good to have the Inspector General act decisively against what we hope are errant police officers. A lot of money has been invested in reforming the police. Right now, in terms of the police to population ratio, we are almost hitting the target because we are, I think, at 1 officer per 380 citizens. So we need to invest more in the police. We need to urge the police and tell them that it is possible to restore security in this country while respecting the rule of law. That is when you can talk about sustainable justice. These are things that we are doing are just drama, but in terms of crime prevention, in terms of dealing with the root causes of insecurity, we are not making any advances. So just to urge the police that even if the job is difficult, they've got to do it right.
All right.
Yeah.
And we had, of course, invited the police spokesperson, Charles Owino, to the program. He did not show up. We want to read out your feedback, and we thank you very much for sending it in. This is what you had to say. Let us invest in skilled parenting, early childhood development, education, positive ethnicity, patriotism. That way we can win this war. I think talking about the large macrocosmos of, criminals, etc. Unemployment should not be an excuse for youth to engage in criminal activities. The senseless killing of youth will not solve the root problems that have them terrorizing residents in the first place. What happened was totally unacceptable. The police can't act as law enforcers and judges at the same time. What happened to the courts and the judicial system? The killings may continue, but that will not address the underlying issues. Those are your views this evening on our this evening on our topic, and we certainly do thank you for it. It is a divisive and emotive story, and we'll stay on top of it for you as we reported earlier in the program.